2006 film by Ridley Scott, A Good Year. And this is a movie starring Russell Crowe, Albert Finney. IMDb plot: a British investment banker inherits his uncle's chateau and vineyards in Provence, where he spent much of his childhood. He discovers a new laid-back lifestyle as he tries to renovate the estate to be sold. So one thing I did this year was go back over, because we had a lot of time, because there's still lockdown going on at the beginning of the year, go back over some director filmographies and watch films of directors that I like that I never seen before. Ridley Scott was one of the directors that I picked. So over the course of about a month and a half, I watched maybe a dozen of his films. He's made a lot of movies, and a lot of them I hadn't seen. You know, there's some big ones of his, but also some lesser known kind of flops that he's made. And this is one of them. You know, I remember this coming out in 2006, but did not see in the theater. Even though I was a fan of both Russell Crowe and Ridley Scott, it looked kind of lame and cheesy. So, you know, this year for me, you know, I decided, okay, let's do this Ridley Scott thing, and came across this film. And this one really, to me, captured a lot of things that I would associate with 2021. So, you know, the movie's about someone who suddenly, due to an event beyond their control, inherits this vineyard, much like we were put in this pandemic by things out of our control. And he's sort of forced to reevaluate his life, slow down a little bit, realize what is important. And at the end of the film, he realizes, after this experience that he's had in Provence, like, he can't go back to his old life. Now, that's not to say that he's a totally different person, but he's realized some things about himself and really what's important. And he's done that self-reflection over the course of the film. And at the end of the movie, he's sort of entering this new chapter that brings a lot of his, you know, previous things about him into this new version of himself. And I think for me, 2021 was that. It was a lot of slowing down because we were still in a bit of a lockdown, but now we're coming out of it. So there's a lot of self-reflection and pause, and what things, you know, really made me happy before the quarantine that I want to continue in my life. What are some other things that I don't necessarily like? Like, you know, for example, I did change my job this year because I realized, you know, this is not, the current job that I had was not something that actually gave me joy and happiness. And now I'm in one that I like a lot better. So, you know, there's a lot of change, I think, is a important part of this year, like self-reflection and change. And I think this film just did a really good job. Yes, it's cheesy and schmaltzy, but, you know, I think that lends itself to some charm that really just, again, hit me at the right time. I feel like if it wasn't for this year, where there were all these feelings of like slowing down, self-reflection, deciding what's next in this new world, much like, again, Russell Crowe now has this vineyard that he didn't have before. And what do you do with this? You know, is the question that he's asking us. And I think we collectively as a society, or at least I am asking myself, great, we're coming out of the pandemic. What do we do now? And that's why this movie is number 3 on my list.
I love that the pandemic and inheriting a vineyard are same things for you.
If I could choose between those two, it'd be a toss-up, I think, which one I'd want. But
I am a big fan of this genre, pandemic or no pandemic. There's so many movies like this, right? That you're usually in Europe in some like pretty location, and something happens and there's struggle involved in the beginning, but then you embrace it. So I love this genre. Having said that, I've never watched this movie, even though my mom incidentally was talking about this movie a few months ago, that they rewatched it and loved it and were recommending it to me. And then I looked at the Rotten Tomato rating and I was like, oh, this is not good. So this is going to the bottom of the list. So I didn't watch it. But now that you're talking about it, I feel like maybe I should watch this, especially given the year Ridley Scott is having with 2 massive movies coming out. So I think it'll be fun to go back and watch like a smaller scale movie, which frankly, I don't think about Ridley Scott when I think of those kind of movies. So it's kind of exciting and fun to go check out something like that he's done. So I will check this out. But yes, big fan of this genre.
Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now, or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.